Okay, so welcome to this guide, and on this occasion is about the TD-3 from Behringer, and this is not a review, this is a complete guide. So we will go through everything we can do with this thing. Now everything is divided in sections, so if you look at the timeline or the description, you can easily jump sections and skip the parts you know. Now if you like what I do, remember to like and subscribe, of course, and if you can afford it and you want to buy me a coffee, you can check the description and you will find links for Patreon and to donate something. Right, so first we need to cover the synth controls, because this is basically a synthesizer and one oscillator synthesizer. So we're gonna cover the simple parts, and then when we are clear with the simple parts, we can move on to the challenging part, which is gonna be the patterns and creating the patterns and the tracks and everything else. So in order to play something, you need to use the keys right here. Notice that this looks like a keyboard. So to do that, you are gonna need to move this knob, and you're gonna need to go to pattern in this case and write. And then right here, when you go to pitch mode, and we will talk about this in a few minutes, it's gonna position you so you can use it as a keyboard. Okay, so first let's cover this part right here at the top. So this is basically an oscillator, and it can do a saw or it can do a square. So then you have the main knobs right here. This is gonna be the tune control. It is going to, of course, tune your instrument, whatever you want in that case, maybe there. So again, you just can change the pitch of the oscillator. Then you have the cutoff, and the cutoff is going to be cutting high frequencies. Now this is an analog bass line synthesizer, so it's going to pretty much play low frequencies. So even though you can cut frequencies, it's not going to go super high, right? So notice that we don't go super high, you're going to go all the way down on the resonance, and notice that all these knobs right here are all the way down. So the cutoff, essentially what it will do, it will cut high frequencies. And if I go down, notice it's going to be cutting them. Now at some point you're going to get something, or almost nothing, but essentially with the cutoff you're going to be cutting high frequencies. Then you have the resonance control, and the resonance, it will add a peak at the breakpoint of the cutoff. So if I go all the way to the resonance, note it is growing, and then we get a peak right there. And now we're starting to get that classic sound. Right. Now notice, of course, when I play something, notice that the resonance, that peak, is moving. Usually on a synthesizer, that doesn't happen unless you have an envelope doing some modulation. Now in this case, the envelope is a pre-wired, and it's working by default. And the envelope is going to be this control. Even though it's all the way down, it's doing a little bit of movement. Is it super fast, but it's moving it? This happens by default. So this envelope will decide how aggressive this movement is. And right now, if I go up, we're going to start, notice that it goes higher and higher, and at the same point it's going to go lower. So if I play again, notice that the breakpoint is going lower, and if I go down, it's moving right there. If I all the way down, there's the peak, it stays right there. But on the other one, if I go up, it moves up, but it also is going to go into lower. Right. Now this is what the envelope is going to do. It's going to have the aggressiveness of how much up and how much down on that movement. Then you have the decay. Now the decay will decide how slowly we go back on that movement. So if I play something and I go up on the decay, notice that now it's moving much slower. It's taking a lot more time to go back. Right, and when you create a sound, of course, when you use this, you're just going to need to move these knobs and fit the sound or fit the knobs to whatever it is that you want to do. So then you have the accent control. Now, this one right now, by using it in this mode, it does nothing. It just does nothing. So this knob is going to work when we create a pattern. We can add accents on different parts of the pattern. And if it's all the way down, nothing will happen. But when we have an accent on a pattern, this will decide how loud that accent will be. Since now we are not using it, we're not going to be able to test it, but we will use it when we get there. Right, so very simple controls, right? You can use a saw, a square, and you get the most basic controls right here. Now, on the other side, you can do distortion. Now, the original unit didn't came with distortion, and the that classic acid sound that you get from this, this kind of a unit is that you are a distortion pedal. That was, a classic thing. Now, in the case of the TD-3, they give you a distortion section built in, so you can just, if you don't have a pedal, you can use it and get that classic sound. Now, the distortion is pretty simple. I'm gonna go maybe put everything at noon, and you can turn it off, and of course you can turn it on. Off, it sounds like that, and by turning it on, it's gonna sound like that. Of course, it's gonna go down a little bit in volume, so right here you can control the level. So it's gonna boost the signal. Now, of course, you can go low on distortion, and it will still, do a little bit of distortion, but not that much. And if I go all the way up, it's pretty distorted. And of course, the level will go up, so you're gonna need to manage that. Now then you have your tone control, and this works just like a pedal. You have the tone control. The tone will just make it sound darker. You get less high frequencies. And if you go all the other way, you get the opposite. You're gonna be hearing less low frequencies and more high frequencies, right? So you're just gonna need to find the sweet spot for your sound. Maybe I'm gonna kind of leave it right there. And all of this, again, to get that classic sound, it kind of works with the cutoff and the resonance right there. Right. Let me make the decay shorter. And then there it is, that classic sound. Now, if you don't like to create patterns, because it's going to be a little bit challenging, once you get it, it's very simple. But at first, it's just a little bit challenging. You can still, use it as a keyboard and, connect it through MIDI and still use it. But the main vibe of this unit is going to be, of course, the filters right here, how this sounds, and the creating the patterns. That's the main vibe of this unit. Now, since the easy part is just kind of out of the way right now, let's talk about tracks and patterns. So as soon as you see it, you have patterns and you have tracks. So they are very different, but at the end of the day, they work together. So you need to create patterns in order to have tracks. Without patterns, you cannot create tracks. So on each pattern and track, you have kind of two different things. You can play, which is, you can play the pattern, and then you can write, which is you can edit and create patterns. Same thing with the tracks. You can edit the tracks, and then you can play the tracks. So to understand this a little bit better, if you go all the other way, we need to take a look at right here because they are just connected. So you have a track and a pattern group, and this is how it works. Right here, you can create 7 tracks. That's why, they match the color right there. You can create 7 tracks. Now, each track needs patterns in order to work. So you can have up to 4 different groups. So track 1 and 2 will only have access to the patterns that you have on the group number 1. The track 3 and 4 will only have access to the group number 2. And then, 5 and 6 to the group 3, and then 7 to only the group number 4. So if we go right here and we go to play, notice it's gonna kind of take us out of the pitch mode. You cannot really use the pitch mode. This is for a different thing right here when you go to play. And when you go to write, then on the right, you can use the keyboard. But in this case, I'm going to go to play. Now, from factory, each step holds a pattern. And you can create up to 8 right here. Now, each of the 8 patterns have an A side and a B side. And they can do 16 steps each. So if I go to pattern 1, this will have 16 steps. And it can, of course, store the A section and the B side, or the A side and the B side, and they could be totally different patterns. So that's it. You can hold 8 patterns, 16 steps each, and on each one you have A and B, and that's the whole thing. That's what the pattern group means. So once you have all your patterns, maybe on the group number 1, let's just give you an example. Put an example. Then you have all the patterns that you want to use. Then you can go to track and you can select from all the patterns you created. You can just kind of make different combinations. And when you do play, it's going to play a sequence of the order, an order of the different patterns that you created. That's the difference between patterns and tracks. The patterns is just, the 16 step with the pattern that you will create. And then when you go to track, you can create a combination of all of them and play them as a whole, as a track. And you can only, again, use 7 tracks, and each track has access to a limited group of patterns. So in this case, I'm going to go to, I don't know, the number 5, which is going to be the track number 5, but it's going to be the group number 3. So if I go to the pattern, now I'm standing on the group number 3, and I can use these patterns on the track 5 and 6. Now, from factory, you get something so you can hear what's going on right there. If this is going to be like the play and stop. So by selecting the patterns, how can you do? Well, you just tap and you can select the different patterns. And by factory, you're going to be, you will have a pattern stored right there. So if you play, notice that you get something. And I did nothing. This is from factory. So this is going to be your first pattern. Remember, it's going to be 16, and then right here, you can use A side and B side. So if I go to the B side, it's going to be a different pattern. Now, if I want to move to the different pattern, I don't know, let's go to this one. It's going to be, again, a different pattern. And you have the A side and the B side. Let's go to a different pattern. So that's it. You can go to play, and on play mode, you're going to be auditioning all your different patterns. And when you're ready, then you move to tracks and you create your track if you need it, of course. So in order to create tracks, we need to know how to create patterns. So to create patterns, you need to, of course, select the group you're going to be working with, and then you need to go to write. So you cannot create patterns on play, of course. You can only play them and, audition or transpose them. We're going to talk about that later. But if you want to create a pattern, you're going to need to go to write. All right, so let's talk about creating patterns now. All right, so how to create a pattern. So first, again, need to select the group and need to be on the right. Then, of course, you need to select which pattern you want to create or you want to edit. So in this case, I'm going to go to the number 1, the pattern number 1. Now, by default, you do have something stored there. Always make sure on which side you are, but you have something there. What happens if you want to start over? So you're going to need to go to clear, and then you tap on that step. And if I play again, notice that we get nothing right now. And it's because we cleared that pattern. So to create a pattern, you need to kind of do three main things. You need to record the notes that you want. That's going to be step number 1. Then you need to assign a time to each note that you've entered. That's going to be the 2. And then the 3 is going to be edit the pattern with glides, accents, and transpose, and all of that. We're going to get there. Okay, so right now I want to just record a simple pattern. How can we do? So make sure always that you clear before you start. And how can you enter the notes? Remember, that's the first step. I'm going to need to go to pitch mode, just like, we were doing before. So in this case, I'm going to do something simple that you can do at home. And remember that this can hold 16 steps. So if I do a 1, 3, 5, 7, a minor, that's 1, 1, 1. That's 2. That's 3. And that's 16. So once you're done, right, entering all the notes that you want, you can go to function in this case, and function for us is going to say right here normal mode. Well, function is like home. Every time that you want to go home, you just go function and it's going to say normal mode. Now, the next step, once you enter the notes that you want, if you play them, nothing is going to happen. This is not the way it works, because TD-3 knows which notes you entered, but it has no idea how to play them. It has no idea, about the timing of each note. So the next step, if I get out of play, I'm going to go to this mode, and it's going to say time mode. So right here, when we stand on time mode, TD-3 already knows the note, remembers the notes we entered. So now we need to go one by one and enter the duration of the note. And you have 3 main ones. Now, this is going to be like 1 note per step. This one is going to be the glide, and this one is going to be a rest. So first, I'm going to do this one. Since we've entered 16, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and once you're done doing the 16, notice it's just kind of not letting me do anything. It's jumping to the first one. So this means that it assigned kind of successfully each time to each step, to each note. So now we can do play. If I do play, we can hear that minor arpeggio, minor 7. Pretty simple. Now, of course, right here you have the tempo. You can go slower or you can go super fast. Depends on what you want to do. And to stop it, of course, you choose to do stop. All right, so it's pretty easy, right? Just entering whatever you want, enter the notes, and then step, 16 times, and then you get it. Now, of course, you can do less than 16. We're going to talk about that later. But for now, I want to show you the rests, and I want to show you the ties right here. Now, I'm going to start over. I'm going to do clear. Notice this is stopped. I'm going to do clear and select the pattern number 1. So we are ready to begin, to start over. And in this case, I'm going to do 1, 3, and I need to go to pitch mode. I'm going to need to do, let me just go back, make sure everything is clear. Go to pitch mode, 1, 3, 5, 5. I'm going to do a 1, 3, 5, 5. And I need to repeat it one more time, and then one more time. Right, so we are done. Now, you don't need to go directly to function and then to time mode. You can just go to time mode. Now, I'm going to be doing a tie right here. Now, if you're used to work with the other sequencers, this is kind of not going to work like that. On other sequences, when you do a tie, pretty much what you do is that the envelope will not re-trigger. But that step is going to be, is going to hold that note. In this case, when you do a tie, it means that the previous note is going to last longer. So everything that comes after that note is going to be moved one step up, pretty much. So, okay, so let's just do it. We have a 1, 3, 5, 5, right? Okay, so in this case, I'm going to do a 1, 2, and then I'm going to do a tie, and then I'm going to go to a step, right? So step, step, tie, step. And since we have 16 steps, we need to repeat it 4 times. So it's going to be 1, 2, tie, and then 1. And I need to repeat it again. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then 1, 2, tie, 4, 1, 2, tie, 4. Of course, we enter 16, so now it's kind of taking us to listen, or, it's saying, dude, I'm ready. Let's play it. And we get that. Now, if I go a little bit slower, and I stop and play it from the beginning, notice that the time is a little bit different. It's not the same every single time. And it's because, again, the tie will just make the note last a little bit longer. All right, that's how it works. All right, so I'm going to stop it, and we need to do rests right now. And I'm going to start over. I'm going to go and do clear. So if I do play, we have nothing right now. And I want to do the same thing, but I want to do it with rests. Now, the rest will work pretty much the same way. When you add a rest, that step, whatever you're adding the rest, is going to, of course, not play anything. It's just going to add a rest. But that step will be a rest. And then everything you entered right here, all the notes, is going to be moved one up. It works just like the tie. So let's do it. I'm going to go right there. I'm going to make sure I'm not in play. I'm going to make sure it's clear. And I'm going to go to the pitch mode. And we're going to do the same. And I'm always doing the same, so you can do it at home at the same time. And we do both. We both do the same thing. So I'm going to do a 1, 3, a 1, 3, then 5, 5. Same thing we did before. 1, 3, 5, 5, one more, and one more. And we are done. Now we need to go to time mode. And now I'm not going to be using ties. I'm going to be using rests. And this is going to be the button. So remember, it's going to be 1, 2, rest, 4. 1, 2, rest, 4. 1, 2, rest, 4. And one more time, 1, 2, rest, 4. We are done with the 16. And now we can play back. So I'm going to go and play it. And we get it. Right, so that's how it works. And of course, you can do a combination of the 3 things, and you're going to get, a little bit, just something a little bit less robotic, a little bit better. But yeah, that's the way it works. Now, of course, remember that you can do only 16 steps pretty much. This is not a DAW. You cannot remember all the notes that you did. And when you reach the 16 or the last, the duration, it's just going to dispose everything that you did if you added rests or you made notes longer. And this is kind of a why, that myth that this is very hard to kind of program. Because when you enter the notes and you do your thing, then you're going to need to remember what you did in order to add the time modes. And that's kind of the hard thing. But this actually can lead you to what we call happy mistakes. And maybe you make a mistake and you make a note longer and it sounds kind of cool, right? And then you play it back and it doesn't sound like you expected, but it sounds musical. And this is one of the main things about this unit. And the Roland, of course, this one and the Roland one, they're very musical. And even if you mess it up right there, it's just still going to sound good. It's still going to sound musical. Now, if you understood how all of this works, that when we do this, we make it longer. When we add rest, it's going to move it up. So if you understood how it works, you don't need to watch the next section. You're going to need to go to the next section after the next one. Because on the next one, I'm going to be going deeper in what we did right here because this is a little bit confusing. And this is a family show. I'm targeting pretty much anyone who wants to learn. Maybe you're starting and you are a little bit confused in how to, really program what you want. So I'm going to go deeper and I'm going to be adding some things on the screen so it can be very visual in what we are doing. Right, so let's go deeper into ties and rest and try to understand how all this works on a more visual way. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that we are clear. So if I do play, we have nothing, right? We're going to start from the scratch. Right, so I'm going to do pretty much the same thing that we did before, but now I'm going to be changing it a little bit, and I'm going to be putting some things right here at the bottom on the screen. Everything is going to I'm going to make it in post. So everything is kind of in my mind. So it's a little bit difficult to record because everything is in my mind. So, okay, so let's do the following. We're going to create a 1-3-5-5, just like we did before. So I'm going to go make sure that we are clear. I'm going to go to the pitch mode and I'm going to do 1-3-5-5. We need 16, 1-3-5-5, one more time and one more time. All right, so now it's time to go to the time mode. So what I want to do, I want to repeat kind of the same motion over and over again. I want to do 1, 2, 3, and the fourth one is going to be a tie. And then we just repeat it. Just like, when we go in fours to complete the 16 steps, every 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 is going to be a tie. And right here, of course, we are doing a minor triad, is a 1, 3, 5, 5. All right, so 1, 3, 5, 5. Okay, so let's just begin. We are in the time mode. I'm going to go right here and we're going to start with this. Remember, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and the 4 is going to be a tie. 1, 2, 3, the 4 is a tie. Then 1, 2, 3, tie. 1, 2, 3, tie. Then 1, 2, 3, and tie. So we are done. Now, of course, what is going to happen is that some notes are going to be disposed of my arpeggio. It's going to change how the bar sounds. So the note before the tie lasts 2 steps. So everything that comes after, it's going to be moved towards the, to the next step. So notice at the bottom, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have it 4 times. So it's going to be 16 steps. And then at the top is what we did right here. And what I did the same thing every 4 steps. Now, of course, since the tie, what it does, it's going to make the note before last 2 steps, everything is going to be kind of moved. We will never kind of start from the first, from the first key every time we go to the next 4. Because, of course, we are kind of making one of them last 2 steps, so everything is moved. So if I play it, I'm just doing that. Now, I'm going to go really slow and start over. Right. So it's going to be 1, 3, 5. That one, we made it longer. Remember, we did a 1, 2, 3, and then tie. So that one is going to be longer. So the next one is going to be the 5. It's not disposing that note. So when we start the next pattern, it's going to be 5, 1, and then 3. Because remember, we did 1, 2, 3, and then tie every single time. On every 4, we did 1, 3, and then tie. So again, everything is going to be kind of moved, and at the end of the day, you're just going to be kind of getting something else that maybe is not what you had in your head. Because this is not disposing whatever it is that you're doing. It's just kind of making it last longer. Right, so of course it makes sense, right? If you have a sequence or you do a 1-3-5-5 or whatever it is that you want to do, if you want to fit it in 4 steps, if a note lasts longer and you repeat the same pattern, everything is going to be moved. Now, of course, it's hard to be aware of what you're programming because you're not doing this in the moment when you enter the steps. So you're going to need to do something and then remember what you did to go right here and kind of change the time mode. And again, this kind of leads you to happy mistakes. Of course, now that I'm going to go up in tempo for now. Now that we are aware that when we, of course, enter a tie, that note lasts longer. What if I wanted to keep that I wanted to keep my 1-3-5, and then of course, always when we go to the next 4, I want to start always from the 1. I want to do a 1-3-5, 1-3-5, 1-3-5, and then 1-3-5. Now that we know that how this works, we kind of fix the issue. I'm gonna go and do clear, and I'm just gonna have nothing, and I'm gonna go to the pitch mode. So remember, it's gonna be a 1-3-5, but the last 5 is gonna be a tie. It's gonna last longer. So instead of doing a 1-3-5-5, I know that my 5 lasts longer, so I'm gonna do a 1-3-5, 1-3-5, 1-3-5. 1-3-5 again, and we're just gonna keep going until we finish the 16 steps. Because at the end of the day, kind of lost the count. At the end of the day, when we go and we kind of change the time mode, everything is gonna be fitting 16 steps. So I'm gonna go to the time mode. So remember, it's a 1-3-5, and the 5 is gonna last longer. So it's gonna be 1-3-5, and then we add this one. Then 1-2-3. The 5th lasts longer, 1-2-3, longer, 1-2-3, longer. And we are kind of back to the same thing. So now we're going to have something, we're going to have what we predicted. Is a 1-3-5, 1-3-5, 1-3-5. And it's kind of not moving. We always start from the first one, from the C note. So now that we know how to control it, and that's cool because you can reproduce what you have in your mind, but sometimes you just want to play around and not think too much about it and just see how it sounds by doing a little bit of shuffling. And maybe you're gonna get something that you didn't expect and it's gonna sound cool. That's kind of the soul about this device. Okay, so rests. What's the deal with rest? I'm going to clear and start over again. So the rest will do the same thing, but it will add a rest. And in the note, of course, it's going to be moved 1 step up, whatever note that comes next. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a 1-3-5-5, and we're going to repeat the same thing we did before. 1-2-3, and then rest. We're going to do that. So I'm going to, again, make sure I'm clear. I'm going to go there. I'm going to do 1-3-5-5. That's the 16 steps. I'm going to go back to the time mode. And I'm going to do, remember, 1-2-3, and then rest. And look at the chart I'm adding right there at the bottom so you can see what we are doing and how we are shifting. Everything we do is 1-2-3, and then rest. And then 1-2-3, rest. 1-2-3, rest. 1-2-3, rest. So notice at the bottom on that description I'm adding, everything is kind of moved 1 because we are adding a rest. It's a silence. So since everything is moved, everything, will start on a different position. Every 4, we're going to start in a different place. So if we play this, it's going to sound, of course, like that. Now, of course, at this point, this is just again, too easy for us. How can we, fix this? So remember, we're going to be adding kind of an empty spot. So we can do 1-3-5, not 5-5, 1-3-5. And then we know that we are going to be adding a rest, just like we did before. So again, make sure you're in clear. I'm going to go to the pitch mode, and it's going to be a 1-3-5. And I'm going to do it several times just to make sure that we kind of do the whole 16. Now, at the end of the day, we can change the amount of steps. Kind of a lost track right there. I'm going to go to time mode, and we're going to do the same thing, but now we know that it's going to be a 1-2-3 rest. 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, rest, one more time, 1, 2, 3, and then rest. So the 16 steps are done, and if I play, we are always starting from the first, from the C, right? So we are able to control it. Right, so again, this, at the end of the day, this is how it works. You need to be aware when you have something very specific in mind, but it's a good idea to just shuffle it, just to play around and just do different things and make mistakes and not be very aware of what you're doing sometimes. Okay, so now that we know how to kind of create a pattern, now we need to talk about adding notes, about transposing. We have the transpose right there, and we need to add accents and slides, and we need to learn how to edit notes, because maybe you want to edit what you did, so you can. Okay, so I'm going to go start on clean. We have nothing. So I want to do our trusty 1355, so anyone can do it at home. Right, so that's it. And I'm going to do one more. Right, so pretty cool. I'm going to go to time mode. And I'm going to do all of these ones until it goes right there. And now we have... Right, so we know what we have. Now what I want to do, I want to cycle through all the nodes we added, and I want to audition what we did, and maybe I want to change some things. So the way you do it, you must not be in play. You need to go to the pitch mode, back to the pitch mode, and now you need to use this button. So this button will cycle you through all the different notes that you enter. So if I start tapping this, notice that it will just kind of audition what we did, and if you press and hold, of course, it's going to be longer, but you can audition whatever that you did. Now, once you reach the end, it will just not do anything because you reached the end. How can you start over? You go to the pitch mode and you start over. It doesn't matter. You're not done. You can always go to pitch mode and start the pattern from the beginning. So notice that right here you have a back button, and if you think about this, it's kind of a makes sense that if you press, I don't know, 3 times, it's gonna go back 3 steps. Well, not really. That's not what it does. What the back will do, it will not let you move forward to the next step. It's kind of a step, leave you on the same step you are right now. We currently are. So this kind of helps you to not move forward whenever you do next. That's kind of the first function. And the second function that the back does is going to be for editing purposes. We're going to talk about this in a minute. But for now, if I start over again and I do 1, 3, 5, 5, I'm on the 1 right now. And I kind of messed it up because I pressed pressed it too quickly. Let me start it over. 1, 3, 5, 5, 1. I'm on the 1. I'm going to release. So if I press again, we're going to go to the 3. Well, not really. If I go to back, I'm back on the 1. Now if I press again next, it's gonna go to the next one. I'm on the 1 again. If I press again, I'm gonna go to the 3. If I do back, I'm still on the 1. So this is what the back will do. We'll kind of instead of move forward, it's gonna position you right here. That's kind of the first function of the back. Right, so very simple. Now that we know how to cycle through the different steps, let's talk about what we can do with this, because this is kind of, again, like the filters, like the distortion, like the patterns. This is like gives you that TB-303 kind of a vibe. So okay, so we start over. And we know that we can cycle through the steps. Now, every time that you go through a step, you can press either transpose up or down, and this will transpose that note. So if I do 1, 3, 5, 5, we know that's going to be the same that we did. But if I go to the next one, I'm going to make this one, and I'm holding because I'm going to make it up. I'm going to go to this, I'm going to make it up. This one is going to be up. This one is going to be up. And the next one, I'm going to be making down. And I'm doing this so we can easily recognize everything. And this one is going to be up again. And make sure you press and hold until this, you enable that. So we are done. If I go out of this and I go back to normal mode and I play it, and we can hear the changes. Pretty simple. Right. So doing the same thing and on pitch mode, you can, of course, you can audition everything that you did. Now, same way, you can add accents and you can add slides. So first, I'm going to be adding a slide. This is going to sound pretty obvious. I'm going to do, I don't know, go back to the beginning. And I don't know, maybe this one is going to be a slide. And I'm not going to be very aware of where I'm putting this slide. And this is, again, one of the, like the vibe of this unit. Sometimes you just do things randomly and see where it takes you. Now I'm going to go out of there, and I'm going to go back to play. And you get, you know, that kind of a 303 vibe. Right. Pretty simple, right? You can still go right here and audition everything that you did. But notice that it will not give you the slides. Right? So you cannot audition that. That's going to happen in real time. So the accent will be kind of a rise in volume pretty much. So it's an accent, right? Just an accent. And I'm going to do, again, my trusty 1-3-5-5. I guess at this point, you already know how to do it. Going to pitch. Right, so then we go to time mode. And right now, I'm going to do all the same. Right, so pretty simple. We know how this sounds. And let me just do a little bit of... There we go. Okay. So now the accent works the same way. We need to go to pitch mode, and every time that we want an accent, we just hold that note and we add the accent, right? In this case, since we have a 1-3-5-5, maybe I want to add an accent, maybe on the first one, right? Makes sense, on the C note. So that should be an accent. I'm going to add an accent. That should be an accent. Accent. And then, of course, we are accent. And then we are done. Now, if I go back to normal mode and I do play, we get the same thing, right? But we hear no accent. And it's because this knob is all the way down. If this is all the way down, you're just not going to get anything. But if I go up, notice that the first step has an accent. And we can really hear it. Right, so that's how it works. Okay, so what if you wanted to change notes? And I'm not going to start over, but I'm going to go all the way down on the accent because sometimes, you know, it's just a little bit annoying when you're practicing. So I want to keep my 1-3-5-5 and I want to change it to a 1-3-5-7. That's what I want to do. I want to edit all the notes we did. So how can we do this? So if you think about this, it kind of makes sense. If you go to the pitch mode and I go 1, 3, 5, 5, that's the wrong note. I want to change it. So I'm going to go to a 7. So, you know, this makes perfect sense. I'm going to go there and press a 7. And I'm going to do the same thing again. And I'm going to do a 7. I'm going to go again. That one is going to be 7. And then it dies. But it died way before I ended my sequence. And this is because this is not the way you edit steps. And again, it makes sense that that's the way we should be editing steps, but it's not the way it works. So what it's pretty much doing, it's adding this 7th, and it's kind of moving the 5 that we are trying to replace one step up. That's why the 16 steps is kind of finishing before we can edit everything. It's kind of you know, it works like the tie and works like the rest. It's kind of moving it one up every single time. So now we're going to have a 1, 3, 5, and the next one should be a 7. Well, it is a 7, but then instead of going to 1, it's going to be 5, and then it's go to 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 5, and then 1, 3, 5, then 7, and then 5, and it ends in 1 and dies. So again, it works just like this one. We need to be aware of this. So if I play it, and I'm going to go right there and play it. Now this is how it sounds. So we have a different thing, you know, not what we have in mind. Okay, so that is useful if you wanted to kind of, you know, add notes and just move whatever you had from before. You know, that's how it works. Now, in this case, this is not what I want to do. What I want to do is replace one note for a different one. So this is going to be a little bit weird. It's easy, but it's going to be a little bit weird. So I'm going to start over. We have nothing clear and the pattern. And again, a 1, 3, 5, 5. I'm going to go right here. Now it would be cool to copy and paste step so we don't have to do it again over and over. Maybe this is going to be the topic of the next section. So now we have the 1, 3, 5, 5. I'm just going to make sure that we have everything. And then step, 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 step. And we are on 1, 3, 5, 5. Right? Pretty simple. Now I'm going to go to pitch mode and we are going to repeat the same. I want to go to that one and I want to change it. Is 1, 3, 5. And this is the one I need to change. Now I don't need to press anything else. I'm going to release it. Right? Just going to release it. But that was the one I wanted to change. So I'm going to do back. And remember, the back is going to put you on that position. So the back, what it really does is going to go to the last position or the last note you played, last step, let's say. And it will kind of put you in edit mode for that specific step. So now it's kind of listening for you to do something. So it's going to be my 7. Now if I do next, that's the note we want to change. I'm going to release it. I'm going to do back and I'm going to change it to a 7 and do the same thing over and over. It's going to be back. It's going to stand me in the, put me on edit. I'm going to do 7 and we're going to repeat it one more time. And notice that now it's just not cutting us right there. That's the note. It's going to be 7. And if I move forward, the sequence is done. But we are kind of it's not offset. So now if I go and I do play, we get the 1, 3, 5, 7. Right? So that's the way you edit notes, existing notes on your sequence. If you do it the other way, it's just gonna, add instead of edit. All right, so let's talk about the step length and the A and the B that we get right here. So far we've been doing 16 steps, but you don't really need to do that. You can select the amount of steps that you need that you want. So instead of recording the 16, you can record less and then instruct the TD-3 that you just have a 4-step pattern. Okay, so I'm going to start all over again. We have nothing, and we're going to do the 1, 3, 5, 5, but this time we're going to do it one time. I'm going to go to pitch mode. I'm going to do 1, 3, 5, 5, and I'm going to do it just one time. Now, instead of going to the time mode, I'm going to go to the function mode. Now, while we hold function, we can go to step and we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then release, and the TD-3 will know that we want to use 4 steps instead of 16. That's how it works. I'm going to function, I'm holding it, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to be releasing this. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that we should not go to the time mode and, and do our job. Well, we still need to go to time mode. But now remember, TD-3 knows that we have 4 steps. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will exit and put us right there so we can do the playback. If I play it, we get that. Simple as that. Now, there are some other things that you need to know. Let's say I'm going to start over and I'm going to do my 1, 3, 5, 5, but this time I'm going to do it 16 steps. Right, so we have it. So now, instead of going to the time mode, I'm going to go to my function and maybe I'm going to just say, all right, you know what? I want 7 steps instead of 16. You can, even though you recorded 16 notes, you can still do it, make it the 7 steps. I'm going to hold function, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. I'm going to release. And of course, I'm going to go to slide to the time mode and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. And that's 7 steps. So if I play it, right, super simple. Now, what we cannot do is change the amount of steps and keep the time mode. So right now we are doing 7, right? And I say, all right, maybe I made a mistake. I'm going to use 4 instead. So I go to function, you can still do this and say 1, 2, 3, 4. So now it's going to last 4 steps, but this is going to forget about the time mode. So if I play it, nothing happens. You need to go to the time mode and do it all over again, but now it's going to be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. and then you just get it. But you're not losing the notes that you entered. But remember that when you change the amount of steps, you're going to lose what you have at the time on. Right. Now, remember that you also have an A and you have a B. So you can create something on the A and then do something on the B. And while you're playing this, just swap between the A and the B because they can hold different information. For example, I'm going to start over and I'm going to do, I don't know, my trusty 1, 3, 5, 5. Right? Then I'm going to go to time mode. And for now, I'm just going to do everything just the same. So that's going to be my A side. Now, when you recorded this, you need to be aware where you are because if you did it on the B, it's going to be stored on the B side. But we don't want that. We want the A in this case. Right? So we have the 1, 3, 5, 5 on the A. Now, if you want to do something on the B, you need to go to the B and then you need to record something else. I don't know. In this case, I'm just going to go right here and do the same thing and then transpose it so we can really hear the difference or something like that. So, okay, so I'm going to do a 1, 3, 5, 7 in this case. And then I'm going to go maybe to time mode. I'm going to do everything the same. And if we wanted to edit, remember how this works. We need to go right here and I'm going to be doing something different. And, you know, just kind of folding around right here. Just flipping a coin. There we go. So now that's going to be stored on the B side and we know that it sounds different. So if I go back to function, we're standing on the B side. I'm going to play it and we know it sounds different. Right. So, of course, we recorded 16 steps. So if we go and we change it to the A side, the 16 steps needs to finish in order for this to go to the A. So I'm going to go to the A, and now we are there. Now, of course, at some point, we're going to need to go to the B, and this needs to finish before we go to the B. Notice that there's a lag right there. And then it goes to the A side. Right. So that's how it works. All right, so let's talk about copy pasting. This is something very useful. So again, we are on the A and we have something on the pattern number 1, right? And let's just pretend that this is the best pattern we ever created and I love it, but I want to kind of create a variation. If I need to create a variation and I do it right here, I'm going to be messing with that pattern. Maybe I don't want to. So you have two options. You can, if you're not using the B side, you just can copy and paste it on the B side, or maybe just copy, paste, and paste it on a different pattern. Now we can do that. So notice that right here, let me just stop it right now. Right here on the G sharp, you get the copy, and on the A sharp, you get the paste. So how can you copy and how can you paste? Of course, you need to stand right here and you need to stand right here. So you go to function and you press and hold function and you copy. So now that's going to be in memory. Now, of course, what I want to do, I want to maybe paste it on the step, on the pattern number 3. So on the A, I'm going to do function and I'm going to paste. And if I play it now, we have the same thing. Now, if I go to the, the number 2, this is from factory. I never erased this. This is, again, from factory. So I'm going to do stop, I'm going to do function, and since we had something, I'm going to do paste. And that, we have the super awesome pattern we just created. Right? So that's how you can copy and you can paste. Right, so we need to talk about triplets right now. If you go all the way to the bottom right here, you can have this symbol. This is triplets. So yeah, we need to talk about this. So pretty much what's going to happen is that we know that we have our 16 steps. We have the 116. So whenever we enable this, it's going to kind of shift it to a 112 pretty much. Okay, so let me show you. First, we're going to do a 16, and then I'm going to change it, and you're going to hear how it sounds. So I'm going to go right here. I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to do clear. And of course, we are going to do the 1 3 5 5, right? So I'm going to go and record. It's going to be 1 3 5 5. We're going to do it once. 1, 3, 5, 5, twice, then 3, and then the last one, I'm going to do 1, 3, 5, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to the C. I'm going to go back to the C, but it's going to be a C an octave higher. So if I go back, or maybe go to the time mode, and I do steps on all of them, and then I do play, we can really hear, what is the last 4 and identify the last note. And we know that when that note plays, we start over. But we can hear the last 4. And even, of course, the octave higher C. All right. So now the thing is that when you change something to triplets and you're kind of using it this way, you're kind of making everything shorter. It's going to sound slower because it's going to play with the tempo at the same time, but it will kind of remove the last 4. So if I now go to function and I hold the function and I do triplet, notice that this one is enabled. I'm going to release it and I'm going to play it. And notice that now it's just slower. Well, funny thing, we don't have the last 4. No, we don't get that octave higher. Right. All right. So I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to try and, to explain in simple terms so everyone can understand. So remember, we have 16. When we do triplets, we are going to really have 12. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing. I'm going to go to the pitch mode. So I'm going to do 1, 3, 5, 5. But this time I'm going to do it twice. 1, 3, 5, 5. That's 2. And I'm going to do 1, 3, 5. And now I'm going to do 1. And we're going to do it just 3 times, right? We are not going to do it 4 because we know when we do this, we don't get it. So I'm going to go to function and I'm going to enable triplets. And now I'm going to need to go to time mode and do it. And notice that it's letting me do it 12 times, not 16 times. So now if I play it, we can hear the last 4 and we hear the octave higher. So that's the, kind of the way it works. Now, of course, without anything, nothing in the background is a little bit harsh to kind of to grasp whatever is going on. I'm going to start again, and now I'm going to be showing you the same thing, but I'm going to be putting a kick or kind of I'm going to use it like a metronome. So, but for now, we need to record it. Everything is clear, and this time I'm going to do a 1, 3, 5, 5 all over again, but this time I'm going to record 16, and you're going to see why. I'm going to do 1. Oh, I'm going to need to go here. Let me go back. I'm going to go pitch 1, 3, 5, 5, 1, then 2, 3, and then 4. All right. So now I'm going to go right here and I'm going to do all in. Right. So, of course, if I do play, we have what we already know. But in this case, what I want to do, I want to add accents. I want to add accents every 3. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And every time we go to the 1, we're going to be adding an accent. So we need to edit this. I'm going to go to pitch mode. And now it's going to be 1, well, that accent, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and there we go. It's just finishing right there. Okay, so now I'm going to be playing this with a kick. So now notice that there's a little bit of noise and you can see it right there on this spectrum. So this is the USB that is connected. It's got nothing to do with the unit. It's just my house. It's the way it is. Okay, so I'm gonna go and do some playing, and this one is synced to the DAW because I'm gonna be playing the kick from the DAW. So if I do play, I need to go to function first. Notice that the accents are kind of not really aligned with the kick. I mean, they sound cool. Yeah, it sounds a little bit different because we have 16 and the accents are kind of in a different way. Now, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna stop it and I'm gonna do the same. But now I'm gonna go to function, I'm gonna hold it and I'm gonna turn it into a triplet. So now this is going to be slower, but now every time we go to 1 is going to be synced with the kick. So I'm going to go and do play again. Notice that the accent, it's right there on each one, in each kick. So yeah, when you turn this, of course, it's going to change the tempo, but it always will, behave like this. Right. So yeah, that's how the triplets work. Now, one thing that you need to be aware is that when you create a pattern and then you change it to triplet modes, you cannot really go back. Right now we have this kind of vibe. If I go back to step, it's just not really happening. And I go up, we don't get anything. It's just gonna kind of delete everything. So you're gonna need to kind of start over in this case. That sucks. That's why you need to kind of practice whenever you want to create something and you want to experiment with the triplet mode. Maybe you want to copy paste on a different place, or maybe do A and B so you don't lose what you have. All right, so we need to talk about random, the tap that we have right here, which is going to be a tap beat. I guess that's the correct name. And then about transpose. But first, we're going to be talking about how to create the tap beat. So by default, and I have my 1355, for 16. We already know how to do this. I'm not going to do it again. So we have the tap. And right now, we kind of have some kind of information because I went to time mode and we did it, 16 times. Now, while doing play, if I do play and I do clear, this is going to delete any time information I have available, and it's going to give me kind of a metronome. It sounds like a metronome. It is a metronome. It sounds weird because it's using the same, the same thing we have on the unit to create the metronome, but it is a metronome. It has a start and it has an end, right? So why do we get this? So remember, when we do clear while we are playing, we are deleting all the time information. So now what we can do, we can go to this button, to the tap, and we can kind of enter the time information to each step. And you're gonna need to do it with your finger. Sometimes it's not that precise, and again, that's the whole charm about this. So I'm gonna need to wait until the tap, goes on. There you go. Once you're done, and notice I'm doing the same thing. Well, I tried to do the same thing. It sounds like the same thing. Yeah, it sounds kind of pretty much the same. So yeah, you can enter your information instead of going right here and doing 16. You just enable the metronome or the tap mode, tap beat, and then you just tap it with your hand. Now, if I go again to the same thing, now what you can do is just kind of go random. And then it's going to give you different things. Kind of messed it up right there. Let me start over. And I did something kind of randomly right there. And yeah, by doing that, you just can, kind of create something else without going, to the time mode. That's what the tap beat is. So yeah, that's what the tap beat is. You can just kind of create something on the go, and sometimes it's going to take you to different places, and that's cool. And talking about different places, you can do random as well. So again, if I go right there, well, we have something. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to press this one and this one at the same time. And notice, it's giving us a random. So yeah, that's what it is. When you press it both at the same time, it's just going to randomize everything and give you a random pattern. If I do it again, yeah, that's pretty much what happens. Right. So let me just show you one more thing before we move on to the next thing, which is going to be creating tracks. I'm going to quickly go to clear. I'm going to go my function. And I'm going to do my famous 1355. And I'm just going to blah, 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 blah. And just get, what we already know. Now, when you're in play mode, what you cannot do, you cannot use the keyboard just, to hear the notes. But what you can do when you play this, because, we can play it back, on the pitch mode, you can transpose. And it's going to be on kind of on real time. Not in real time, but, the sequence is going to finish, the pattern is going to finish, and then it's going to go to whatever you're transposing. Right, so that's what you can do on the play mode. Right. Right, so we need to create a track. Now, before we can even go to a track, we need to select which track you want to use. You have 6, 7, 5, 4, and in this case, I'm going to go to the 3. And now notice that the track number 3, number 4 belong to the group number 2, so we can only work with patterns that belong to the group number 2. Now, in order to have something to use on the track, you need to have the patterns you want to use. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be going to the right and I'm going to be doing something specific, and I'm going to do it with you right here so you can do the same thing and you can know what we're going to be doing, right? So we can all be on the same page. So what I want to do, I want to create one pattern of a 1, 3, 5, 7, kind of a pretty much the same thing that we've been doing. And then it's going to be all ones, all Cs, and then all Cs, but it's going to be an octave down. And maybe I'm going to be adding some slides and some accents. So we have 3 different patterns that are just kind of different from each other. So when we create the track, we're going to be able to identify when we do what. Okay, so I'm going to be going to the right mode. Remember, I am the group number 2. I'm going to clear everything. You know how this works. And I'm going to go to pitch mode. All right, so I'm going to do a 1, 3, and then 5, and then 7. I'm going to repeat it once again, one more time, and one more time. Then I'm going to go to time mode, and we're going to go and do it 16. There we go. So now we have the 1, 3, 5, 7. Right, so this is going to be my pattern number 1. Now what I want to do, I want to go to the number 2, and I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to do all ones. It's going to be all Cs. All right? So then I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to go and just do it 16 steps. And then we're going to get something simple, but it's different from the other one. We can identify this. Okay, so that's going to be my second pattern, and I'm just making this super easy so you can do it at home and we can create the track together. I'm going to go to this one. It's going to be the pattern number 3, and on this one we are going to do the same thing we did on the number 2, but then I'm going to be transposing and I'm going to be adding some slides. So okay, so we're going to go right here, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and let's do a couple more because we can. And I'm going to go right there and then just going to do the same thing. Now, of course, we are going to be getting the same thing than the number 2. So what I want to do some editing. I'm going to go to pitch mode, and for everything, I'm going to be transposing it up or down. It doesn't matter. You can choose. Maybe I'm going to go down. And maybe sometimes I'm going to be adding a slide and doing an accent. Kind of a miss that one right there. And you are going to hear it. All right. So if I go back to the beginning and I do that one, I missed that one. And that one as well. And I'm going to do a slide. Right. And that one as well. And there we go. So now all the C's on the pattern number 3 are one down, right? One octave down, and we have some slides, so it's gonna sound a little bit different. Maybe I'm gonna be adding some of this. Right, so pretty simple, So now we have 3 patterns. So what I want to do, in this case I'm going to go to the number 1, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be using the track number 3. So this works the same way than patterns. To create a track, we need to go not to the play, we need to go to the right. Right here, to create a track, you need to kind of follow a very specific, some very specific steps, especially when you do clear, when you do next, and when you do start and stop. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do when you want to create a track is to do clear. When you do clear, this is going to position you right here at the beginning. Right, so that's the first thing. You need to do clear. So when you do clear, what you need to do is play start and stop. And this will just kind of play whatever step you are right now. And it's going to be 1 hour, 1, 3, 5, 7. Right now, we are not doing anything. The problem is that we can only commit to memory, to the patterns, to the tracks on play mode while this is playing. We cannot do it, when it's not playing. That's why we are doing some playing. Okay. So what's the next step? So the next step is going to be grabbing the tracks, the patterns that we want, and put them on different positions. So, okay, so how can we do this? Now, right now we are on the 1, right? So that's the 1. So that's going to be my first pattern. I'm going to do next. Now, it's going to put us on the next bar. How can we know? Notice that this says bar right here. If you go to here, notice that now you're positioned on the number 2. So you need to decide what's going to be your number 2. Well, in this case, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to be transposing it. And that's going to be my number 2. I'm going to do next. Now we're going to be on number 3, right? And notice it's going to be taking us back to the first pattern. But we are on number 3. So in this case, I'm going to be transposing, and I'm going to do 5. I'm going to mess it up right there. I'm going to go back to 1 because that's the one we want. Notice that we are still in the number 3. I'm going to do pitch mode, and I forgot to hold. That's my mistake. And I'm going to go to 5 and transpose. Right. So now we are in the 3. I'm going to go to the next one. And then in the next one, I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. I'm going to go, notice we are on the 4. I'm going to go to pitch mode, and now we're going to have a 7. So now we just covered this with the same pattern, just transposing it on 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alright, so maybe I'm going to do next, and I'm going to go to my number 5. What's going to be my number 5? So in this case, what I want to do, I want to use my number 2, which is all C's. We are on the 5, I'm going to go to the 6. The 6 is going to be, again, my number 2. It's going to be all C's. We are on the number 6. Right, so it's 5 and 6. We are missing 7 and 8. I'm going to do next. Notice it's going to say 7 and 8. Alright, so now I'm going to go and select my number 3, which is the last one, the one that has the slides and the octave down. You can really identify it. And again, function, we are on the 7. So I'm going to do next. Now I'm going to check it out, and we are on the number 8. Right, so on the number 8, I want my third pattern to kind of finish. And now the track is finished. Now we could keep going, but in this case, the 8 is going to be my last one. So after this, the whole track should start over again. And now you need to kind of pay attention. So when you're done and you enter your last pattern, you need to do, and you really need to do it. You need to do clear, you need to do next, and start and stop. I know it sounds weird, that's the way it works. You need to do clear, next, and start to stop. So once you're done doing all these steps, you're going to need to go to play, because that's the whole point. You create a track and then you want to play it back. Now to play it back from the beginning, again, you need to do clear. Just when we enter to the ride mode, we are going right to the beginning. Now, if I do play, it's going to do what we saved. And again, we can do the function to check on which bar we are. That's going to be 7, all C's. Then all C's again. Then it's going to be our third pattern, the third one again, and back to the beginning. So that's how we create a track. Pretty easy. So I'm going to go back to right, because maybe I made a mistake and I want to make some changes. So what you need to do is do pretty much the same you did to record it. So we are back to the right mode. I'm going to do clear. So when we do clear, remember that we are going, it's positioning us on the first one, right? Clear, doesn't matter how many times you do. You just goes back to the beginning. So the next one, remember that this works on play mode. So this is our first, and we know it's our first. So the next one should be the one that transposes right there. So if I do next, it's going to go to the next one and repeat it over and over again. So now maybe I'm going to go back to this one, and this one is going to be the 5th. And if I go to the next one, this is going to be the 4th. So maybe I don't want this, right? So what you can do, again, I'm going to go back to 1, all the way back to 1. And if you do function, you know that you're on the number 1. And you play back. I'm going to go to my next one, and I know it's going to be the 2nd. Maybe I don't want it. I'm going to go right here and just make it, the same arpeggio. Same thing. We're going to go to the number 3. Now we are on the number 3. I'm going to disable that transpose and go back to all C's. Go right there on the 3. I'm going to go to the next one. We're on the 4th. We're going to do the same trick. I'm going to go back and make the changes. If I do function, we know we are right there. And it's going to be, the 5th. We already know that that one is cool. Maybe I want to keep the number 6. Then we are going to go to the number 7. I want to keep that one. I'm going to go to the number 8. And I want to keep that one as well. So when you're done and you are, you make the changes, what do you need to do? Well, remember the steps is clear, next, start and stop. Clear, next, start, stop. Clear, next, start and stop. So now if I go to the track, hopefully all of this was stored. So I'm going to be going to clear so we can position right there at the beginning. And I'm going to be playing. And notice that it's not transposing or going to the transposed ones. So we can have edited the pattern. Right, so you can of course, do it like this. And that's gonna work. Right, so now we need to talk about the patch bay, and you get a lot of ins and outs. Well, maybe not a lot, but they're pretty simple and straightforward. First, we need to talk about the filter. And notice that it says in, and then out and out. And it's because you can patch something that goes in here, like a sound, for example. And in this case, you're going to need to sync in something that is going to be synced with this one. The other ones are going to be outputting some kind of information. Now, let's start with the filter. So I have my crave right here, and this, again, is a different synthesizer. So what we could do, we could output some other sound that we can patch into the filter in. So that sound is going to kind of start right here, is going to kind of feed and go through this circuit. It's not that it's going out after the filter. So if you have a constant sound from this oscillator, nothing will play until this one plays. Because remember, it starts right here. So you're going to have your main oscillator from the TD-3, the oscillator from this synthesizer, and of course you are cutting and you are kind of lowering the volume every time that the unit is kind of stopped or when you play each step. So it means that if the gate of this one is closed, nothing will play because, it needs to go through the circuit. So you need to open it somehow, and that is when you play something or when you're doing a pattern or maybe a track. Okay, so I'm going to be going out of the crave and I'm going to be playing something on the crave. Now I'm going to be doing line out, which is kind of the main out of the synthesizer, and everything that goes out of the synth will go to the filter in of the TD-3. Now, if I do play, notice that you're going to see something going right here. It's like on, and this is behind the scenes, it's playing something. It's playing a tune, but we cannot hear anything. Now, if I go to pitch mode, you can hear it right there. And this one is, the crave is doing an arpeggio behind the scenes. But only the sound will come out when the filter of this one opens, because we are going through this, stage. Right, so that's, the way it works. Now, of course, if I do play right here, of course, I need to go to play, and I do play, we get that. I'm going to lower the volume on the crave so you can listen just to the TD-3. This is what we get on the TD-3. Now, behind the scenes, I'm doing the other arpeggio, this one. But of course, they are out of sync. This is going at a speed and the other one's going to a different speed. So sometimes you can have this disconnection because, of course, this one is opening and closing at some point, at a rate, and the other one is opening and closing at a different rate. So you're going to need to kind of move the tempo of the other synthesizer, if it's a sequencer, and trying to find, kind of let me just put it right there. It's kind of there, and trying to adjust the rate, the clock, so they could be kind of on the same spot. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to play anything, I'm going to be stopping what this is doing, and I'm going to be playing a key. And I'm just playing, C, and the third, then the fifth. And then, I'm playing some keys on this one. Now, of course, the takeaway is that now everything is going to feed through here and will be filtered, and you can only audition it when this one is playing or when you're in pitch mode. But yeah, doing the sync manually, adjusting the tempo of this one and adjusting the tempo of this one so they could be in sync, it's just, a little bit hard. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to go and remove this one. So the next one, we're going to skip this one. I'm going to talk about this one at the end. Then you have the CV out. So behind the scenes, of course, this one, it's playing something. So that something, it's outputted right here on the control voltage. So we could connect something that goes out of here, maybe to the crave, right? To the crave to this one. And this one will play whatever this one is telling. Pretty simple. It's the control voltage, something that you get pretty much on all synthesizers with the patch bay. So for now, I'm just going to stop this one. And I'm going to be connecting the control voltage. And I'm going to go to the crave. Let me adjust the camera. So I'm going to go to the crave. And this one is the control voltage of this synthesizer. So whatever I play right here is going to be playing pretty much right here. Now, the problem is that now what I don't want to do, I don't want to listen whatever the TD-3 is doing. I just don't want to. So I'm going to go to the TD-3 and I'm going to lower the volume. Now I'm going to bring a new cable and this is going to be the line out of the crave. So if I kind of play, let me lower the volume first. I'm going to be playing whatever the, sequence I have on this. And this is the sequence I have on the crave. Right? Now, what I want to do, I want to trigger the CV with this one because this one is doing something, right? So that CV out is going to kind of export whatever preset, whatever we enter right here in terms of, notes, and the control voltage is going to make the oscillators go through this, through this frequencies. So we are kind of doing the same we are doing here, but we are kind of doing here. That's the whole point of the CB out. All right, so let me adjust the cable. I'm going to put it maybe right here. Now, in theory, what I want to do, and I don't want to listen whatever we are doing here. I'm just going to lower the volume. We already know that. And if I do play, notice that nothing is happening. And it's because the gate of this one, it's not opened. This is doing something. And even if I go right there, we are kind of getting it. Now, on the crave, what you can do, and right now notice this, you have an envelope. This is controlling when the sound goes out with the envelope, which just means when you press a key, the envelope will open and it will let the sound pass. In this case, the envelope is closed because we are not pressing any keys, right? So to leave it open in the case of crave, you're going to need to leave it open. And this one, it's doing what the TD-3 should be doing, but we're doing it right here. Now, of course, we could just, change a little bit of what's going on right there. Maybe make the envelopes closer. But yeah, we are just outputting this one and making this doing the job of this one. That's pretty much what the CV means. Now, of course, we have that problem. We need to kind of remove the envelope out of the equation just to hear what's going on. So then you get the gate out, and this is kind of the solution for our problem. The crave has no idea when this is triggering a note, when the envelope should open and close. Well, the gate out is that information. It will tell you when something is playing, when a step is playing, and when it's not. So at the end of the day, this gate out will give you, I was going to bring red, but we already have red. So the gate out is going to be that, is the instruction of when an envelope should be closed and when should be opened. So if we grab a cable and we plug it right here, this one should be controlling whatever gate where, you're connecting it to. Now I'm going to go right here and remember this is the instruction of how an envelope or when it should be open and when should be closed. So we don't need this envelope and we don't need to do it like that. So I'm going to be connecting this on where the envelope is going to be controlled. It's going to be this one. And as soon as I connect it, we're going to be getting something. So whenever this is opening and playing, opening and closing, this one will follow the frequencies and it will open and close at the same time. If I stop this one, it will stop playback. If I do it again, you can never get it. Right. So that's why you get the CV out and the gate out. So you can kind of export the sound to a different place. Now, of course, you can do a lot of combinations with different synthesizers. Let me just stop it. You can do a lot of combinations with different synthesizers, even with the crave, just to maybe mess with the sequence that you have right here and play something else right there. So you have a lot of combinations. I'm just kind of showing you the main basic kind of example that you can get out of this ones. All right, so now we need to cover this sync in that you have right here. And this is like it says right here is a sync in. Some other things, some other like drum machines, for example, they have a sync in and a sync out. So you can, go sync in or sync out. This one can only sync in. So this means that if you plug something right here, you can control when this one is going to start and then when this one is going to stop. So if you have a drum machine or maybe a synthesizer that has a sync out, you're going to be connecting the sync right there. And whenever you start the sequence or whatever it is that you want to do on the other thing is going to start on this one. That's the whole, point of sync. So in the case of just bringing a drum machine, I'm just going to give you a stop and a play, because that's what the drum machine is going to do, is going to stop playback or stop playback. And this one needs to follow that. So the key step has a sync out and a sync in. So in the case of sync out, there's going to be this cable. So it means that this one is going to be my master. Whenever I do play, whenever this one is doing play, this one needs to follow. So I'm going to go to the sync in right here. So now they are just kind of connected. Now, if you're hearing a noise in the background, it's not the TD-3, it's the key step. It's just a very noisy device. That's why they give you an adapter. I don't have the adapter, kind of lost it, but that's fine. So in the case of this one, this is going to be my master and this is going to be my slave. If I do play, this one should follow. Now, the thing is right now, if I do play, nothing will happen, right? Nothing is just happening. And this is, how fast we are going, but nothing is happening. And if I do play on this one, we're going to be able to hear whatever is going on the TD-3. And that, it's not controlling. Okay, so the main problem is that you need to set this device to be a slave of this one. You need to kind of say, okay, TD-3, you need to listen to whatever this one is telling you to do so. So if you go right here and you do right and next and back at the same time, notice it's going into a different mode. And now you need to look at what you have right here. It says the clock is internal, or you could use MIDI. You can use MIDI, of course. You can even control it through USB if you're using a DAW. But then you have the other ones, and these ones are going to be for this sync in. The other ones are just kind of pretty obvious. It's just internal clock, MIDI, or USB. Now, in the case of this one, I kind of set up my key step to work on 24 PPQ. So if you have a drum machine, you're going to need to check the documentation of your drum machine just to check how that drum machine operates. Because it could go on 24, or it could go on 2 or 48. It depends on, on the other device. In this case, this one, you can change it to whatever you want. That one, having a key step or maybe the swing from Behringer, it's a super useful thing if you like, to do a lot of patching in so you can test things. In the case of this one now, it's running on 24. So it means I'm going to need to go to configuration and make it a trigger. Now, right now, it's on 1 PPS. That's not what I want. I want it on 24. Now, this one is the one that it's going to be listening to start on this one. If I do play right now on the TD-3, nothing is going on, the clock, and nothing happens. And it's because this one is the slave and this one is the master. Only when I start this one will start. If I play, it starts, and if I stop, it's just going to die. So yeah, that's the way the way you sync. Right, so pretty simple. This doesn't mean you cannot, mess with the other values. You can just do whatever you want. Now, if I go right here and just change the configuration to maybe something and I kind of offset both, this one is going to do something that it's not supposed to. It's not going to work. Or if I go to maybe something like the 48 PPQ, this one is going to react a little bit different. Let me just do some right now. I'm going to go and do some playing. Notice it's just not working the same way. And I even need to do play stop right here in order to make it. This one is much slower. I can, go up in tempo and go down in tempo, but they're not synced in. They're not doing the same tempo. This is just a little bit different, just half. So you always need to make sure that you set the right, the right control right here. Let me just go back. And I'm going to go and do some playing. You can kill right there, turn it on, and then it stops and stops. So yeah, that's the way. Always remember that you need to double check what is your master device and what, you need to set up your slave one. All right, so let's go back to this same example we have from before we created at the beginning with Crave going through the filter in of this synthesizer. Because remember, we have a problem with the sync. You know, this one, the clock of this one, it's different from the one we have on Crave. So I'm going to go and do filter in, and I'm going to go out of the Crave by some degree. Okay, so I'm going to go right there. Right, so remember that they are out of sync. And the way we get to sync this unit to the clock of something else is going to be by using the sync in. We kind of already did that. So I need to sync it to, in this case, to the Crave. Now the Crave has no sync output. Some, just like some other synthesizers, this has no sync. Now, of course, if you're using a drum machine or, a beat machine or whatever you want to call it, they already have a sync out by default. Most of them. But in the case of Crave, we don't have a sync. But this one, what it does, it will output a gate. And the gate out is going to a certain speed and certain rate. And of course, it outputs voltage. So we could use the gate out of this synthesizer to sync the clock of both ones. Now, the trick right now, and I'm going to be doing gate out. I'm going to go right there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to be going again to the filter. Then I'm going to go and play this one and play the Crave. And if I go up on the Crave, that is that they are kind of out of sync. So we need to do the same trick we did previously. We need to go right here and find which setting is the suitable to sync both synthesizers. So we're going to go right there. Right now I'm on int, which is internal. This is just not going to work. Now, of course, this depends on your synthesizer, the other one, the one that's going to be the master. So in the case of Crave, is going to be trigger, and it's going to be 2 PPQ. And this is in the case of Crave. We can change the configuration of Crave. But in the case of Crave, this is the one that is going to be doing the job. Now, I'm going to be doing some playing, and notice that now we are synced to the Crave. Notice I'm doing play and nothing happens. And it's because I need to play the Crave in order for the sequence to start. Now, this works. Now, Crave right now, the tempo is way up because I, tried to adjust it before, but now it's in sync. Notice that we hear every key that we are doing on the trick or on the Crave. Now notice one thing. This one, even though it's in sync, is going at the same rate. We are kind of playing 2 notes per step. So this is why I'm telling you, you always need to check and double check, maybe try the settings and see if you can sync, or maybe try the other one. Usually it's going to be this one or this one, and with different synthesizers, it's going to be this one or this one. In this case, we are doing kind of 2 steps per step on the Crave. So in the case of this one, it's going to be, I guess, 1. So if I do play, and now it's going sync. Now it's syncing. I'm going to go up in speed. And now each step on this one is going to be 1 step on this one. So they are completely in sync. So yeah, you always need to go and check what you're using right here and what this synthesizer is doing. Right, so there's one more thing I need to tell you with the sync in is that depends on what you're using, this is going to sync or not. Now TD-3 expects plus 2.5 volts to sync. So if you're using something that will output sync, will go sync out, and it's less than 2.5, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to, it's not going to work very well. For example, the pocket operator, for example, that one will output 1 volt, and that is just not enough. So you need to go through a converter and convert 1 volt to, 3 volts or something like that. Yeah, 3 is enough in order to sync. If not, you're not going to be able to do it. And the last thing is going to be the phones out. I believe I don't need to explain this one. You plug your phones and then you can listen to something. Right, so we are done. Of course, remember to like and subscribe. And if you have the money and you can really afford it, at the bottom on the description, you can go to Patreon, support the channel on Patreon, and maybe you can make a donation. You have PayPal, or you have the button right here, on YouTube. So, you have a lot of ways if you want to buy me a coffee. Right, so hopefully you like this one, and see you on the next one.